It's no surprise to all of us that Andrew Tate and his brother are being tried by the London Crown for crimes of sex trafficking, human trafficking, and assault. Yet he's still being touted as a kind of role model for men. You and I need to talk about this. This is a massive problem. I'm Marcus Peter. So, who is Andrew Tate? If you don't know, let's just start by prefacing this way. He's a British-American influencer, former kickboxer. He's actually gained millions of followers. He has a tremendous presence on social media, particularly by young men. Young men seem to be drawn to him because he promotes a hyper-masculine lifestyle. He's promoting, but this hyper-masculine lifestyle, by the way, is also accentuated by his overt materialism and also emotional stoicism.
Typically, men give attention to get sex, and girls give sex to keep getting attention.
So that's your primary kind of tool or
that's your tool.
resource.
That's your only resource.
Yeah.
Because even you talk about money and all that shit, that's all garbage. The only resource you have is your attention. And the reason it's so difficult is because now women get so much attention for no reason.
Yeah.
Then why does your attention have value?
Now, it is so tempting for a young man to grow up believing that the mark of a man is first, that he is completely unperturbed by anyone and anything, and therefore he has no room for emotion, no room for compassion, no room for affection. And so stoicism becomes attractive on the surface until you get deeper and you realize all it does is it results in an overgrown child who's prideful and who uses people in their life because there's a lacking of a capacity to win over the other for the good of loving the other. Stoicism doesn't have room for that.
What do you say to young men who come to you for advice, who feel lost, who don't really know where they fit into society?
I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without value. Society doesn't care about you. You're only going to be cared about based on how useful you are.
So, Andrew Tate has been trying to teach an entire generation of young boys how to be men. He's, trying to self-style himself as a self-help guru. And he puts forth what is called Neo-Stoicism, Neo-Stoic ideology, which means it's a reclamation of ancient Stoicism, but his is also tempered or colored by anti-feminist rhetoric and actually anti-feminine rhetoric. I want to make clear, modern feminism, third wave and intersexual, so fourth wave feminism, they're problems. They're real problems. These are the narratives that are telling young women out there that they're only going to be actualized if A, they get rid of men and any male influence in their life, B, if they find their actualization by means of first, a flourishing career, climb to the top of the ladder as much as possible, and secondly, by means of wanton sexual expression without moral confines. And so women are tremendously miserable because of this. That's the narrative of modern feminism. Andrew Tate is anti-feminist. He's anti this version of feminism. I'm fine with that because it is an unvirtuous version of the empowerment of a woman, tremendously unvirtuous. We shouldn't support it. Andrew Tate, however, takes it one step further. He's anti-feminine. He talks about women, by his own quotes, by the way.
You know what? So many women say to me, you're so, Andrew, you know what? You're so rich, but you're smart and you're actually very intelligent. And I know you'd get really bored of a robot. And I'm sitting there thinking, I wish to God you were a robot. I don't give a f***. Give me a robot. All men want robots. That's all we want.
He actually speaks that way about women in general. I've seen numerous interviews where whenever he talks about a woman in relationship, he immediately says, why? She belongs to him. He owns her. Now, in the Christian narrative, this language of I belong to you is completely true. I belong to you, you belong to me. But the language is of exclusive self-gift, of total donation of self to the other. Gaudium et Spes 2024 makes very clear, man only truly finds himself when he makes a complete gift of himself to the other. The problem with Andrew Tate's version of masculinity is that, sure, he calls for a mastery over emotions. The Christian gospel calls for that. He calls for self-sufficiency. Now we are seeing a catch. The gospel never calls for self-sufficiency to the negation of all else. In fact, the gospel calls for dependence on God and virtuous diligence, labor, for the sake of the good of self and others, for the sake of God most of all. Rational control, which the Christian gospel does in fact call for, and indifference to external circumstances, which to some degree virtue can dictate as prudence in the space of storms. So yes, you can acknowledge all of this. Here's the problem. All of this, without the gospel of Jesus Christ, becomes nothing more than cloaked vice. And so look at his life. Hedonism, luxury cars. He sleeps with multiple women with unfettered consequences. He doesn't regard morality as an objective order that calls him to accountability. He squanders his money constantly, but he's also Machiavellian. For him, the man and Stoicism is meant to be asserting dominance by means of power. Get to the end you want by any means necessary. I'm going to tell you something, young man, if you're listening to this. I understand the Ilio. As one who recognizes the need for fathers to be present in my life, as one who recognizes the need for virtuous fathers to call out virtue in me, to teach me how to be a man, and who didn't have that growing up, I can tell you right now, I understand the Ilio. But I also want to tell you this. If you go down the path of Andrew Tate, you go down the path of your own destruction. Andrew Tate will help you become the co-author of your own demise. You know what a real man looks like? Look to the cross. A real man is Jesus Christ. A real man embraces those who are weak, forgives those who have hurt him. A real man lays down his life for the good of others. So no, martial arts and kickboxing will not define your worth as a man. Every man needs to harness his strength. He needs to use his strength virtuously. I'm never denying that. Every man needs to understand that his strength must be laid down at the service and the good of the women, children, and others in his life. For these and many reasons, Andrew Tate is not the role model you're looking for. He will help you author your own destruction. Do not follow him. Follow Jesus Christ. Follow Joseph. Thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, I'm Marcus Peter.